the mental aspect is probably what separates you from everyone else. So that's really important. And then like when I go back to saying about the state of flow, when you go into that state of flow, it's like being able to control your adrenaline levels to a certain point where you don't stop how you process things.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ben and Berg Show with your favourite NBA and high school dropout. And today we have another amazing guest joining us from rainy Victoria, Belle Brockhoff. Now, bear with me as we read through the laundry list of amazing medals and championships that she's won. She's an elite snowboarder. Belle was a world champion, 14-time World Cup medalist, including 4 golds, 4 silvers, 4 bronze. Winter Olympian, 3-time Winter Olympian?
Yeah.
3-time Winter Olympian, 7 Australian NZ champion, and 2 Winter X Games athletes. That is an amazing list of accomplishments, Belle. Well done.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy.
So I was doing this last night, like writing down the accomplishments, and Belle mentioned today that the website hadn't been updated, so it was even better than we were discussing last night.
Yeah.
But we thought we'd bring Belle onto the pod because she's got an amazing story. She's been through a lot as her sort of in her sports career, and we're going to go through a lot of that. But also she's deep into crypto. She's now, I think, a Collective Shift member, and we thought it'd be an amazing time to go through and talk about her journey through the ups and downs, how she became a professional athlete, what's it like being a professional athlete, and also how she thinks about investing for the long term, building wealth post-sporting career and her thoughts around crypto. So, Belle, thank you much for coming. I would love for you to maybe give a bit of a background story. I'm sure I probably butchered that intro, so hopefully you can give a bit better introduction of who you are. And yeah, we'd love to hear a bit more about yourself.
No, it's pretty good intro. But yeah, like that's probably like I guess the tip of the iceberg of what I've done in the sport. Been in the sport for a very long time, and I got into it when I was skiing when I was 3 years old. So I didn't always snowboard. That was kind of the thing that you did when you first topped onto the mountains up here. And then my mum got a snowboard when I was 9 years old, and I got really jealous and just begged her for a snowboard. Because it was considered the dark side, and when you're that young, you're a bit rebellious. So I made her she made me a deal. Said get to level 1 in ski school, which is the top level,
Okay.
and we'll get you a snowboard. So I did it very quickly, and then the following year I got a snowboard. And then just every single day was like before the first lift opened, I would be hiking up, snowboarding down, hiking up, catch the first lift, and then go all day until the very last lift, and then would go inside, have dinner, go outside again, and then build like little jumps and stuff, and just keep going at it.
Loved it.
Yeah, frothed it. And then I started competing and started, doing well in races. And I thought, yeah, fuck, I could really do quite well here. This is what I really want to do. So that same year, when I was 10, I wanted to, go to the Olympics and represent my country in the sport. So yeah, I just haven't really looked back since. And eventually I kind of narrowed it down to just Alpine GS snowboarding, which is like a totally different board to what you normally see on like Shaun White, Scotty James, a few of those big dogs. But it's basically going around flags as fast as you can. So I kind of focused on that for a bit when I was 14 until I was about 18. And then when I was 19, lost a bit of passion for it, and I thought, I still want to make the Olympic Games, and I still love snowboarding. So I looked into border cross, which is what I do today. So for those who don't know what border cross is, it's basically, if you've seen BMX racing with the smaller bikes, it's like that on a snowboard with longer, bigger tracks. And we just race down in groups of 4, and it's just an elimination process. So yeah, that's been my whole life.
Amazing. What was your impact or the impact of your parents playing on you in the sport? Because I'm not sure where you grew up. You grew up in Melbourne or Victoria?
It was a mix between Victoria and New South Wales.
Okay.
So when I was 1, I was born in Melbourne.
Yeah.
When I turned 1, we moved up to Byron Bay in Ewingsdale, which is a small little suburb outside of Byron. And we spent about 10 years there. And we kind of flew down to Victoria to go to the slopes every single year, because my dad's side of the family had a lot to do with setting up the lifts, being one of the guarantors for the lift companies up at Mount Buller. So he had like a couple little huts, like bark huts on the land up at Mount Buller. And eventually that was bought out and they built a chalet there, and we had a small apartment in there. So yeah, like quite a big influence. And I was a mad skier as well. Like I loved it. I had a lot of energy as a child as well, and mum just kind of put me into any type of sport just to make me cark it at night time.
So you
So
sleep.
yeah, so I sleep.
Yeah.
Because I had so much energy. Like she said that I was banned from 3 kindergartens because I was screaming all the time and poking other kids and coming home with all their pacifiers in my pockets and stuff. And
So good.
so like, yeah. So she was like, "Oh my god, this is quite the terror." So she just put me in all kinds of sports,
Yeah.
and skiing was one of them. So
Amazing.
yeah.
That's fantastic. And how does that actually work? So you're living like near the slopes or on the slopes. What do you do for like the summer part of the year? Do you travel for that or you just do other things?
Yeah, so like, when we're in Australia, we have different resorts in the country. So during June, July, August, September, I go up to the snow, which is like 3 to 7 hour drive, depending on what resort you want to go to, and just set up camp there. And we have a couple of resorts that build us tracks and give us facilities to use to get better on snow. And then around October, November, we head overseas and base ourselves out of Switzerland, and we kind of travel around to different countries and organise training camps with other teams. And then we have the World Cups kicking off in December. So it's pretty full on. We don't get much sun, and I hate the cold, so it's not
You go to
ideal.
Melbourne.
Yeah, I live in Melbourne. Chase the snow, but yeah.
That's fantastic.
And Bill, in your family, I saw that your uncle Peter competed in the alpine skiing in the 1960 and 1964 Winter Olympics, and also your grandfather Harold was one of the original pioneers of Mount Buller.
Yeah.
And your aunt Joyce was named in the honor of Mount Hotham. So this sport runs deep in your family. Do you think it was always? Do you put it down to like your genes and like the family history that I guess push you down that path, or do you think it was more on your own accord that you believe that you wanted to do it?
Definitely, the family definitely gave me the opportunity to hop on snow and do all that. And like obviously, like with Peter Brockhoff going to the Olympic Games, like that's pretty inspiring to be able to continue on that sort of legacy as well. But I'm the first snowboarder in the family, so I've kind of gone left side of field with that. But yeah, and then like my mum, like she's come from a completely different background. She's from Malaysia. She moved to Australia when she was 19 years old, had nothing to her name. And she's worked really hard to be where she is today. So I think a combination of like her hard work ethic and dedication to building something for herself, and combination of the opportunities that my dad's side of the family has given me has just led to this amazing life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's fantastic. I really like that a lot. Like, and what was this step up like? So, you've been training your whole life, and then eventually, like, what was the big leap for you? Was it becoming an Olympian and competing on that stage?
Yeah, it was like it was a mix of all kinds of things. Like we'd that we've had 2 guys in Australia for border cross that had paved the way for the sport, and we hadn't had, and that they've won globes and a couple of world championship titles and World Cup medals and stuff, but we hadn't had any females do it. So for me, I really wanted to pave the way to become the first female Australian ever to get a World Cup medal, and eventually led to a win, and then going to the Olympics and just building on top of that. So that was something that was really special for me, like collectively. Yeah.
And talk us through like what it, you talk about the intensity of training, and we're laughing about it sort of before the podcast about, the stuff you're having to do even sort of the off season. What is it like being like, put us, non-fit people in, non-sport athlete in your shoes. Like talk us through like, when you're like working towards a world championship or a winter Olympics, you're a few months out, what does a day look like for you? What does a week look like for you for training? And how do you shape up for those big events?
Yeah, so like right now I'm in pre-season training, which is really hard. There's a lot of time underweight and very minimal rest in between sets and everything. And that's just to create a big foundation for the rest of the year. But we break it up into blocks. We have the prep, and then we go into more specific things, maybe strength, and then probably as we get closer to snow season, we go more into more explosive side of things, very quick movements, which involves like, cleans, moving weight fast, jumping over hurdles, box jumps and whatnot, just to kind of replicate that on snow movement pattern. And then for like major events, for me, like I just treat it like any other event. Olympics, world champs, World Cups, just to keep that consistency and not, the power of overthinking is pretty incredible. So trying to keep that emotional state as level-headed as possible, and just ticking along, working away at the little goals as much as possible. And like sometimes I have a meltdown, like because like it's like you're trying to perform at this high, like higher than what people most go into sports to. Like you're going globally against everyone, and you're trying to perform as best as you can. And sometimes the drop off to, if you're disappointed or things don't go your best way, sometimes it's a pretty hard fall. So that's why you see Olympians that go into post blues for Olympic Games, because it's a high drop off. But just ticking along as best as you can.
Yeah, it'd be insane. It's such a big build up for for Olympics, right? Every 4 years, it's a big build up for not that long.
Yeah.
How much of it is a mental game? Like as a very amateur golfer, I know that 90% of why I'm terrible is all in the head, right? Like as an Olympian, where you're like, you're working, split seconds, right? Is the difference between, third and first, or 11th and 8th, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
How much is that a mental thing versus the physical side?
Yeah, like they talk a lot about like state of flow and everything, and for me, like if you want to get to the very best, more so than not, like all the athletes at the very top have a pretty solid program on snow and off snow, psychologist, like physios, all that sort of stuff. So the mental aspect is probably what separates you from everyone else. So that's really important. And then like when I go back to saying about the steady state, like state of flow, like when you go into that state of flow, it's like being able to control your adrenaline levels to a certain point where you don't, stop how you process things, your thinking, how you take in information and everything, because it's a bit of like fight or flight. Like if you're in that flight zone, you're running away and you're getting away as possible, and the fight's like just all this adrenaline packed stuff where you have crazy strength, you have faster reactions and everything. So athletes are very good at like controlling those two levels of arousal, and that's where you get some crazy ass performances where they can do these tricks that they've never done before, or you see them like shaking at the end, or all that sort of stuff. So it's really important to control that when you're in the start gate. And I've been working on it more and more recently. Like I've been in the sport for a very long time, but your learning never stops, and I can feel it in my body and like around my chest area too. It's almost like anxiety, but not really. But you're in the start gate and like you're just trying to amp yourself up just enough where you have that fast twitch pull out of the gate and explosivity for the rest of the course, but not too much where you can't think and you make stupid mistakes, and not enough where you miss the pull, So it's just an interesting feeling. And I think if any athlete listens to the podcast, or for those who do listen to the podcast who've tapped into that state of flow, would know the feeling. Yeah.
That is amazing. And Vel, that's incredible. Like, on your website, you said, you need to be completely present or you'll suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
And you talked about having a psychologist, but how do you kind of mentally prepare? What do you go through? What's your routine? And how do you keep up your mental fitness?
So I go back to like the foundation of good recovery. For me, like, actually 2 days ago, I had only 4 hours sleep. I don't know why. But sometimes your nervous system, because we're going into this prep season, there's a bit of a ramble, but we're in this prep season, your nervous system is so taxed that sometimes it has this weird opposite effects of having lots of deep sleep. It just keeps you awake because you're all amped up. So going back to sleep, like, if I don't have enough sleep around 7 to 9 hours sometimes, then my clarity of thought for the day is just messed up. Like I'm not great. My productivity levels are just crap. So I usually try and take a nap and try and get that back. And then I have a way more, ability to get things done in a short period of time than the whole day with not having enough sleep. And that's the most important thing. And then, good food, having a good routine, and also switching off from like things that kind of like for phones, for example, staring at your phones for a long period of times, like that is narrow focus. And that actually slows your ability in what I find in sport, how you react, how you take in information, how you make decisions and everything. It makes me really groggy and slow. So just having that little break away, going for a walk. I walk with my partner almost every day for an hour and a half, and we just talk shit, talk about different ideas or whatnot. and that's just, looking after our health. So it's
Yeah.
just basic things that everyone can do, really, and it applies to being an athlete as well. Yeah,
That's amazing. And even when you were talking before, like where you can do these crazy things like you're an absolute ninja when
yeah,
you're going down, right?
yeah,
It reminds me of like the way the special forces guys talk, where they have to go in, they have to do something completely hectic. And the way they kind of center themselves and they breathe and, just focusing on that. So when you go down, you can actually do those crazy things. You've just got that level of focus that's absolutely insane. And I'm just like that. What you just described there was just so beautiful where it's just being a human and looking after yourself, like getting your proper sleep, not being on your phone too much, and going for a walk with your partner and just talking, like doing basic human things. And I guess it's like I'm so happy to like hear that kind of flow over into your normal life that's not in your, crazy athletic life. Like I know Ben has a lot of challenges with, social media, his phone, all that kind of stuff. And just hearing you say that is just give me a lot of hope because I struggle with it too.
yeah.
We have hope. Uh, so, Belle, as you mentioned, you've been snowboarding for a long time, but it hasn't always been rosy.
No.
I want to go back to 11 months out from the 2018 Winter Olympics. You had a pretty serious injury. You had an ACL blowout. Talk us through like what that was like for you. Was that the first major injury you've had as a
Yeah.
snowboarder? Talk us through like how that was leading up to a Winter Olympic Games. Obviously, this only comes around every 4 years.
Yeah.
Talk us through what that time was like for you.
It was shit. No, like it's hard. Like, and what people don't tell you about like the injuries and stuff, especially season enders, is that it's so shit. Because you're so bored, you can't do your sport. Obviously, I sound like a victim, but it's just crap.
Oh,
Like
I
it's
can
just crap.
imagine.
Because you can't do the thing that you love. So for me, like I, got to my first Olympic Games in 2014. I was quite the Labrador puppy. Like, oh my God, it was exciting, probably a bit of a tourist as well, to be honest. But, I entered every race wanting to win it. And, after 2014, I just kept building momentum and then, found myself in the top 3 girls and then top 2 and then top 1. And then I was, when you're top 1, you wear the yellow jersey, which is like, Tour de France, you get accumulation of points and you get the leader jersey. So
The one to beat.
yeah, the one that beat. So you have a target on your back, which is a lot harder to maintain than climb to, because you have to create your own person to chase, which is yourself, to maintain that as best as possible. So I'm, 2016, 17 season, I was in the yellow jersey, and we got to the world champs. I was one of the favourite to win, and I just let fear, probably the first time I've ever felt fear, get the very best of me. Clouded everything. I could snowboard a little bit, but I was crashing. And this was during the world champs testing laps. So what they do for testing is that they basically guinea pig the world champs track, and they have it in World Cups and Olympic Games as well, to make sure that it's safe for all the riders. And I'd be testing the courses leading up to this point, and I was happy to test for world champs, but world champs tends to be a lot more technical, especially back then. It was bigger, there was more features to memorize. You had to be very precise and know exactly what you were doing. And I think I just rushed myself into it because of probably being young. I hadn't been in the sport, that discipline for a long time, wanting to prove to other people, and not thinking clearly on what I need to do and not taking the time to make sure that I knew my plan. So I've kind of rushed myself into it, which was completely my fault. And then I remember pulling out, going through the start section. At the end of the start section, I crashed, got up, kept riding, went over the few big jumps, which were fine. And then I came around the second corner, and then this feature, which was a double, which you gap over 2 rollers. You had to gap it. There was no way you could pump it at all.
Can you just explain what that means?
Yeah. So like it's like a camel hump.
Yep.
And you gap over
Yep.
both.
You can't go down the
No,
slope.
you can't roll over it
Yep.
like a wave.
Yep. And how fast are you going, roughly?
That point, probably I would say 60 Ks in that section,
Fucking hell.
which was actually a speed that we got into. Like it was probably faster up top because we were going downhill in a straight line, and then the turn kind of slows you down. So the exit speed was probably around 60, but I ended up panicking. Like I said, fear getting the best of me, and then as I was going over the first roller, I couldn't get my legs over the backside because you had to jump it, and I slammed into the up of the next roller. So it was like 60 Ks into a wall,
Shit.
which
Oh,
spat me upside down. I remember looking down at my feet thinking, why is there sky underneath my
Oh,
feet?
no.
um,
Fuck.
and I landed and I'm like, oh, I think I've done my knee. So yeah, and then, I tried to compete anyway. So we came down. I missed all of training the next day, got scans, came back up, just started doing a bit of rehab and stuff, and I was jumping off like a table probably this high, like about a meter off the floor, just to see how it felt under impact. Felt fine. And then that night before time trials, we went up at 9 p.m. And we got to the very top, and I strapped in, and then I couldn't snowboard. I just could not turn. I could not slide. I had to like inch my way down this long run to get to the bottom, and I there's nothing I could do. Like I couldn't activate any of the muscles in my leg. That was it.
Your just leg wasn't working.
Yeah, it wasn't working.
Shit.
So yeah, and then that night I just got confirmation that my ACL had been torn and had to come home and buckle up. I also had to make a decision to either compete at the games, which was 11 months out, or come home and do a long rehab missing the games, which is I didn't really want to do that. So I kind of came back home, did my surgery, and went straight into a very intense rehab, which was about 5 rehab sessions a day, and that was every single day. So there wasn't much room for like socializing or having fun or those downtimes or anything. It was just very intense. 4 months, and then I got back on snow in that time as well, about 5 months in, and then ticked a couple of boxes off, went overseas to compete because I had to prove that I could compete as well, and that I was able to get down a course. And yeah, competed at the World Cup in Germany, and I got 8th place, which was all right for a return. And then the following month in December, I went to Val Thorens in France, and that's where I did my ACL for the second time. So
How far in between
Jeez.
was like so first ACL you had how
Yeah.
many months was it rehab? 6 months?
4 months.
4 months.
And then I got back on snow for a little bit.
Yep.
And then it was about 9 months from operation to the World Cups, where I did my ACL for the second time, which was 2 months out from the Olympic Games as well.
2 months out from the Olympic Games.
Yeah, and
Oh
the
my
way I did
God.
my ACL was, it's frustrating because we're at this World Cup. Training day was amazing. Beautiful blue sky, the best kind of, we call it hero snow. It's amazing. Like it's best, you can't get much better than that.
Yep.
Next day for time trials, it just shat itself. Like puking snow. People went down the course to dye the snow, which is giving you like a blue dye on the snow that's sprayed on, which gives you contrast. So you know where you're going, you know what features you're approaching. But the snow was so heavy that we couldn't see the dye because it kept on getting covered up. And when that happens and there's no trees around in that area, you can't see where you're going. Like
jeez.
you can't see in front of you because there's nothing to contrast the snow off. You don't know what features you're hitting other than what you've memorized, and you're guessing where it is. And what I should have pushed for, I should have pulled the pin and not do the time trials. And the rest of the girls said, yeah, we should have really canned this because that was way too dangerous. Anyway, we go through the motions. I go down the hill, and last time I said that I did my ACL because I didn't double the 2 rollers. Now, this when I was going down the hill, I had to pop the rollers, which I did this time, but unfortunately, I didn't know that I was already in the air. So I straightened my legs while I was in the air, and when you do that, you can't bring your legs up into a bent position. So I landed with my legs straight, and hyperextended my front knee, which
Oh,
ripped up a whole bunch of cartilage and my ACL again. So that was really frustrating and upsetting, and I just felt all kinds of negative emotions because I just did so much rehab and
Mm.
work to get back to where I was. Um, and that happened.
How did that make you feel? Like you're 4 months of intense training, 9 months just after your operation,
Yeah.
and then to do that again. Like, what was that night, the next day? Like, who was around you? What were you feeling?
Yeah, so like we I remember lying there knowing that I did my ACL again, and I was just like so angry and upset, and like I can't even describe the emotion because it's just so much disappointment. Like you just watch all that intense work go down the drain. Um, so I had my team there, my physios and everything, and I got towed off in what we call a bloodbath. It's just like a sled, but we call it bloodbath because it's very
You don't
intense.
want to be on there. Though.
No, you don't want to be. I hate going in those things. It's so embarrassing because it's like whatever. But yeah, so that was 2 months before Olympic Games, and I was like, I really want to go to Olympic Games. Like, I want to have it go. Like, is this doable? Can you do it without an ACL? Because if I come back for surgery, then that's it. I can't go to the Olympic Games because you have to rehab. So I was like, okay, well, can we do it? And we did. So went back home. I did have a surgery to clear out the cartilage in there because it felt like a guitar string being plucked in my knee every time I bent it. And then did intense rehab with my knee brace on this time though. And then basically, had to compete without an ACL, and we basically pretty much duct taped the knee up, chucked a big knee brace on, and off we went.
she'll be right. Bit of duct
Yeah.
tape.
Bit of duct tape, literally. But yeah, like that was still hard. Like I quickly realized that probably can't go for gold now because can't even bend my leg because of all like this tape and knee brace on there restricting movement. So and this course was quite big, and it's probably the bigger ones I've ever been on. And we usually have 2 training days at Olympic Games consisting of 2 hours each, and I could not for the life of me get past 1/4 of the track. I just kept crashing and crashing, and the thing about where we were is that it's a very windy area. So right next to the course, and you didn't see it, you wouldn't have seen it on TV if you watched the Olympics back then, but they had 10 wind turbines next to the course.
What a spot to put it.
Which tells you, being a multi-million-dollar thing, it's a windy spot. So we had a lot of tailwinds and headwinds during the Olympics, and I remember in training the wind really picking up for one of my training laps, and you usually just have to open up your body and not tuck, which kind of gives it just provides wind resistance really to slow you down. But I went off this jump and I watched the landing go past me, and a landing is like a nice little steep hill where you can land and it kind of cradles you down to the ground, which is really nice.
Mhm.
But I missed it, and I wanted to protect my front leg, so I leant back on my back leg, and my both bindings exploded off my board on impact. Um, so then after that, kind of hiked back up, got a new board, started trying again, and I just kept crashing and crashing. And then, next day, same thing, came back, kept crashing each run because I couldn't bend my knee enough to
Yeah.
make moves for the features. And it was really disheartening for me because I was watching the girls getting faster and faster and faster. And at the end, I had a really big crash, and I just, said, okay, well, I'll just have to try and make it work on race day. So come race day in the morning, I just got my first lap down the full track for the first time. And then we just kind of went from there. And yeah, I got faster and faster throughout the heats. And I was pretty close to making it to the top 6 big finals round, which is the podium round. But I crashed in the semi-finals, which was unfortunate. But yeah, it's just what it is. So
What a
yeah,
what an experience. And the things people don't tell you is that rehab sucks. It's
yeah,
slow, it hurts, it's difficult, and it's a non-linear process. You feel like you're making progress and then you go backwards. You have to do other
mm,
things, and all you want to do is get back to the thing that you want to do. And you can't.
yeah,
And it's like months and months go by and you have to do this shitty rehab instead of, enjoying your life and doing what you want to do.
yeah.
And really, like, if you look back on that experience that you had, the difficult months, the kind of decisions that you made, what do you think that did for you as an athlete, having gone through that experience? And when you look back, like, has it, um, has it made you kind of mentally stronger, or has it made you fearful in any areas? What did that experience do for you?
Yeah, like I definitely had fear coming back, especially when I was coming back first time on snow after surgery. And it wasn't until I remember having a really big crash actually in Mount Hotham. I went over the jump and it was slick ice, this jump with tailwind. So I overshot the crap out of it and I slid on my ass into a fence and took out this entire fence. And my knee was fine. So after that, it was like, okay, I can do this. So I just kept building and building upon that. I just have to take it day by day. And that built a lot of confidence back in my riding. And the beauty about the rehab was being able to like break down everything and build it back up again. And I'm still doing that now. Like after Beijing, like I've broken down everything and kind of used what I've learnt with my rehab and stuff and just built things up again. So that's been something that's been really beneficial for me out of that. Yeah.
You've
That's
shown so
fantastic.
much.
And
Like, I can't believe like you didn't quit, halfway through, especially when you just kept crashing and crashing and crashing.
Yeah.
I think for like so many people, you know, not maybe as a professional athlete, but listeners at home can feel in their own lives in different ways where they've like just gone in, like hit the wall and hit the wall and hit the
Yeah.
wall. I want to know from you, Belle, like where did you draw that, like in those dark times when you're in rehab or you just keep crashing and you're, a couple of months out from the Olympic Games, like where do you drive the motivation from? Like what's that inner energy or that battery that just keeps going? Like what do you tap into?
Literally just simply knowing that I can. Um, and I know like, you have all these greats in different sports and everything, and they've had great achievements and inspired a lot of people and everything, but there's no reason why you can't think that you can't do that too. But it's always going to be in your own way and own walk of life, which is a pretty amazing experience to have. It's just kind of tapping into those different areas where you can like tailor things to suit you to get to that place.
Mhm.
Um, I've had success when I was younger, had a great period where I wasn't getting anything. And um, even now, I was hoping to have a good season this year and experiment with different things, which I did achieve a lot of those things this year, but not in terms of a World Cup result sort of thing. Um, but it's just kind of knowing that and backing yourself 100% that you can do it eventually. Um,
And is it you
yeah.
trying to beat yourself? Is there anyone, for a lot of people, I think it might be about, proving someone wrong or a group of people
Yeah.
wrong. Do you have any of that emotion, or is it you just trying to be the best that you can be? Are you trying to, show an example for other people? Is there anything like that that motivates you as well?
Yeah, like I do it all for me.
Hmm.
Um, because I know I can achieve the things that I've set up myself out to do. I do love helping people. I do love helping people reach their other goals. So showing them that it's possible or ideas that I've had. Because like being the first girl to get a World Cup medal and do all these things, like it's been a lot of zigzagging back and forth,
Mm.
trialing and error, like just all different things, different coaches, different boards, different wax techs, different methods of training and whatever. But now it's like, now we have this path that's just so direct. So, when we look at the sport in border cross in Australia, like things are a lot more direct, and I could expect a lot of results from a younger age from other
Mm.
athletes
Hmm.
now. Um, so that's exciting for
That's
me.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very exciting for me. Um, so yeah, I think that's what I'd say be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
that's interesting. Where if the path is easy, you're on someone else's path, whereas when you were doing it, there was no path, so you
No.
had to kind
Yeah.
of work it all
Yeah.
out.
Well, we had the guys for sure. But
Yeah.
it's different. Like same and different. There's not many girls doing the sport, because it is a bit hectic. There's a lot of men
Yeah.
doing the sport because it's like I'd say it's more of a dude sport. But there's a bunch of badass girls that I get on tour with that just throw down. And I'm like, holy shit. And that's like, oh my god, I better step it up. Like I better get going. So it's awesome. It's awesome to see. And the guys are super encouraging, and they're always, a lot of them want to get in a heat with us as well, which is great because it pushes us, and they definitely don't want to be chicked by us either. So, and for those who don't know what chicked means, it means getting beaten by a girl. So yeah,
What's it like? So I was recently in Thailand, and
Yeah.
I stayed in like it was a co-working, co-living space, and every day you go downstairs and there's 40, 50 like, nomads, freelancers, business owners just working. And from like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., it was just packed and everyone's just like hustling and grinding.
yeah,
And being next to those people, you're like, fuck, I can't leave to have lunch. I can't go and have a
Yeah.
break. Like, fuck, if this guy hasn't left, he's been here before me. Like, I
Yeah.
can't go anywhere.
yeah,
And you when you surround yourself with those people, like,
yeah,
I find, and even not even that instance, but even like your friendship circle and
Yeah.
people you hang around with, I always believe like who you hang around with is who you become.
yeah,
When you're in those states of like training with other professional athletes, and whether it's guys or just like other competitors on tour, and they're
yeah.
they're up here, how much does that like bring you up and just keep you motivated?
Oh, massively. Like literally, for me, like being the only girl, the beauty about that was like, obviously, I wanted another female teammate, and now I do have a few more. Um, I just had to jump into heats with anyone, and it was always boys, just chasing boys all the time. And they're at 10% faster than us. So you're just tapping into that next level type of speed, which you have to adapt with your body and, skill. Um, so that's knowing that. I've also applied that to my gym training as well. So I just hired a new guy last year, and he's just been unreal. And he runs a strongman gym. I thought a 100-kilo squat was pretty impressive. It's not. It's not. There's a chick in there that uses it for a warm up.
Oh,
Strong
when
woman.
someone warms up with your max, oh mate,
Yeah. And that
how do
gets
you feel?
that
You
gets
just feel
me
like
amped
nothing.
up.
Yeah,
That gets me
yeah,
amped up.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it does. And it pushes you, and it's like suddenly, and John, my trainer, is like, yeah, like, that's, you should be squatting more, lifting more, like not just grinding it out, but with speed and explosivity and everything. And and by being in the gym, and he has me come in when those strong women are training, I get to see the next level of strength that's a possibility. Obviously I won't be squatting. Like she squats like over 220.
What's that, like over 3x body weight?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and like I'm like, okay,
That's
if I get
insane.
maybe a fraction closer to that, I'd be stoked. But yeah, it really amps you up, because I think if you're around people, and I know like there's different athletes that come through, and like the different sports and everything, there's different strengths and weaknesses and everything. But like if you're around that next type of level strength and skill and ability, then it's like, holy crap, it opens your mind up to like what you can do, rather than saying like, oh, 100 kilos or 80 kilos is a good squat, strong squat for a chick.
Yeah, good enough.
It's like, no, you can go far further than that.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's the thing. If you're the best in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You need to go
exactly.
somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you mentioned like building yourself back up, and you talked a bit there about coaches. And I wanted to know, like, how do you decide what you're going to work on in your game and on your journey, and who's helping you with this? Like, what does your team structure look like in the background?
So like p- when people watch border cross, it's just like, get a snowboard, hop on the gates, and off you go. But we've got, it's almost like I'd say it's like Formula One. We have, like when they switch out different tires for different conditions, we have different boards with different waxes that you put on the board for different snow conditions and temperatures and whatnot. Like when you see the behind the scenes of a border cross World Cup, we've got 4 to 6 snowboards for each athlete, and we've got wax techs who literally are like, I don't know, like magicians and crazy scientists brewing up these wax things that you put on a board, and then they just brush it in, like buff it in. And that helps the board move and glide on the snow faster. You can also fuck it up real bad and it feel like sandpaper and it's sticky. So you don't want that. So you want good wax techs. And they're there with their thermometers, humidity readers, and a few other things there, just to kind of get all this data in the moment to give you the best possibility to succeed in the track. And then you've got your coaches, one's probably on the top half of the course and one's more at the bottom. And sometimes we have a physio at the very bottom, just giving us feedback, especially if it's a long track, on how the track's running. So then we'll have, when we get to the top again, we have our coaches radioing up to us, giving us feedback or trying different lines or, moves or whatever it may be, just to adapt to the course to find the fastest possible way down. So yeah, and then behind that, there's, when we go back down the hill into the hotels, we have to take all our bindings off our boards, give our boards to the wax techs. They do all the prep for the next day, and we do video review as well, looking at footage from the day and trying to pick out the fastest lines and whatnot. And we take videos of our main competitors as well, or whoever's looking quite fast in the track, to see what they're doing differently. And we just kind of compare things and then take note and come back the next day and see if we can put it all together.
That's great. And in terms of like physical training, do you have like one strength coach, or you've got a range of different people that you go to?
Yeah, so like when you get on the team, you get provided, the team has like, the state level and then there's a national level. You get provided a program and a sports scientist that oversees most of it. We've got one head S&C coach and I think 2 now extra helping hands in each state. And you get given a program and you just follow that. You have a couple checkpoints to test and see how you're tracking. But for me, like I wanted to mix it up. I'm 30 now, so I'm trying to find new inspiration and ideas. So I've hired a guy externally, and that's probably one of the best things I've done, just to he's completely opened up my mind to S&C, and I've done. Can you guess how many squats I've done in my life? Quite a few.
A lot more than I've done.
Yeah, and I got to a point where I was sick of them. And he's actually got me excited to get underneath the squat bar again and rip out some squats. Like it's pretty amazing.
That's fascinating.
I want to know about the business model behind a professional athlete or a snowboarder. Like from what I know in different sports, whether it be like tennis or golf, in sports where it's just you as an individual, the prize money tends to be only really like the sort of top 1% to 5%. Everyone else is sort of slogging away. Is that the same in snowboarding? Is there sponsorship that comes into play?
Yep.
How does that all work?
Yeah. So we have each World Cup has a set amount of prize money. It's been equal pay for both men and women for way over a decade. That's for sure. It's been amazing.
Awesome.
So they took care of that ages ago, and outside of that, you've got your medal initiatives by the country at benchmark events, which are Olympic Games, World Champs, and also funding different tiers of that within the country, depending on what sport you're in. There's also funding there for you.
So you basically get paid based on the ranking you end up with throughout the
Yeah,
year?
so it's not so much paid. There's a small fee now,
Mhm.
only recently for the very top tier.
Mhm.
Apart from that, it's just cost covered.
Gotcha.
So a lot of winter athletes have jobs or have sponsorship. It just depends.
Yeah.
I have a couple of sponsors that have nothing to do with winter sports, because for me that was a market I could tap into that would be quite effective.
Yep.
Other snowboard brands are more focused on like freestyle events right now. So I've just I didn't want to be another number. And I want to give more to the brands that do work with me. So like, for example, I've got a gumboot sponsorship,
Okay.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
Merry people, plug them. No, but they're really cool. They're actually pretty good for snow.
Yeah.
Never thought that, but
Yeah.
yeah. And I've been doing some really cool stuff with them, and they're a very tight-knit community as well. So, brands like that, and obviously like local Australian, well, they're a local Australian brand, they're actually down the road. And a few other Australian brands that I support as well. And
So you like do content and stuff for them and help them grow their brand as a...
Yeah, so like just content and how it integrates into my life. And I don't necessarily like working with someone who doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Just something that I think it could work well. So for me, like I wanted to try, like for example, the gumboots and see if it actually genuinely fit into my life of snow sports, which it did. And then I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. Otherwise, I would have been like, probably not. Because I see a lot of influencers, and I'm a sports person, but you see a lot of people online who sign with brands every second weekend, different, like conflicting with each other.
Just
and
pushing
also,
shit.
So I try and keep it as authentic as possible, as cheesy as that sounds. And
No,
I hate saying
no,
it.
no,
but
makes sense. Don't make
it's
total
just-
sense.
You need
Yeah.
to like you need to have that brand alignment. Otherwise, for people like me, it's very confusing. Of like,
Yeah.
why are you with this brand and the exact opposite that does a different thing? Whereas if it's what you're about and they have the similar values, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
And it seems really genuine.
Yeah.
And oh, jeez, I forgot my train of thought now. Oh, are you able to share what the world championship like prize money is? Like, what would like a gold medal be at a world champ?
World champs is just as the actual medal
Yeah.
result that you get from the event is a 10 to 12,000 euros just for first. Second is around 5,000 to 6,000 euros.
Yeah.
And then 2.5
Yeah.
euros for third. And then it kind of breaks down. Top 10 get prize money,
Yeah.
but then it just gets
Yeah.
filtered out at the bottom. And then you've got like the AOC medal initiative, which is about 20K for
Yeah.
a first. I don't know what it is for second or third.
Yeah.
And then you've got direct athlete support, which is another 35 grand on top of that. And then you've got, obviously, since you've got a gold medal, then you can maintain the highest funding from your organisation. I don't know what it's like for other sports, but for winter sports, that's another 10 grand.
Nice.
And then whatever medal initiatives that you have with your personal sponsors on
Yeah.
top of that.
Cool.
So you could do quite well
Yeah.
if you have it lined up.
Yeah.
But it's like, what I find is like some sponsors sign you on because you got the result.
Yeah. Now,
Others
now
sign-
you're good.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Others ones, like one of my sponsors, he's a real estate guy, Mark Adams, he's up at Mount Buller. He's been with me since I was 13 years old.
Wow.
Long time. Because I
Wow.
said to him, I'm like, I'm going to go Olympic Games and I'm going to be the best in the world as a kid, like in the kid voice. And he believed me.
That's amazing.
So
That's awesome.
we've been working together ever since. And I actually had to force him to get stickers to put on my board because he just wanted to support me.
Yeah.
He didn't want to, like anything else, which is amazing. But
That's really nice.
yeah.
That's great. And you sound like you're at the top of your game, all the stuff that you're doing at the moment. And you're 30 years old now. How long do snowboarders go for? Like, are you planning to do this like a lot longer? Are you looking to transition into something else in the future? Or is this just front and center for you?
Well, I think if you're a snowboarder for life. Like
Nice.
you can go into like, comps for a certain amount of time if you want, wherever the passion is, and then just keep riding after that. You don't have to compete. But we've got guys on tour who are in their 40s.
Wow.
So there's a lot of longevity in the sport, that's for sure. It just depends on the passion, and the passion needs to be there. So I don't know. I definitely want to go to Milan 2026. But at the same time, you just don't know what's going to happen, So yeah, it's just kind of, like you said, I'm 30, like I'm just trying to find other ways to build my life outside of the sport as well. And just, I found that that's actually grown my mentality as an athlete as well. So yeah, it's kind of balances each other's out, like complements each other.
Yeah. And so for the listeners at home, the reason Belle was even on the pod, I discovered her on Twitter, crypto Twitter.
Yeah, followed you.
Well, yeah, and then I was like, I saw back in the day when they weren't just giving out blue checks to everyone. Belle had the blue check. I was like, oh, who's Belle? Like, oh, snowboarder, crypto.
Yeah.
Holy shit! And I was like, this is a perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
Where, outside of snowboarding, you're building, your personal brand, getting some crypto stuff. Like, I want to talk about the personal branding stuff first. Do you think about that as an athlete and building that sort of influence? We had to use the word influencer, but like building that influence and I guess that authority as a world champion in the space. Like, do you think about that and trying to build your brand and that helps with sponsorship deals and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, like it's different for every athlete, I guess. Some athletes just want to do their thing and that's it. Like Dale Big Smith, he's won a gold medal at Olympic Games. He just didn't want to do any sort of media stuff. He was a very down low, quiet guy.
Yep.
It just depends. Like I'm quite introverted around new people, but I'm quite extroverted around my people, like close knit people. But yeah, it just depends on your personality, what you want to achieve. But I just see opportunities in different things, and I like networking with different people. And yeah, I like to see where things go, and I like learning different things. And it doesn't have to be in snowboarding all the time. I think it's important to kind of bring your focus out of the sport. Just have a break as one, and also grow in different ways. And it all complements each other, like I said. And I like tapping into different things. So, and crypto is one of them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
that's such a key point just for everyone listening, where you do things outside of your line of work or your primary focus. It feels like, you're not paying attention to that thing, and that's where you should spend all your effort. But if you go out and you, I don't know, read or do strength training or go on holidays or whatever it may be, spend some time doing other things and then bring that back, you'll come back with a renewed focus, a different lens, and you'll perform so much better. It's the weirdest thing, and
Yeah.
it's counterintuitive, but it's so important.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a thing. Like I'd be doing it because I'm studying at uni right now, doing assignment, and I'll be like, oh, I can't figure this shit out. This is fucking bullshit. Like they haven't taught us this fucking content, and like just lose my shit. And then I take a break. Like I leave it for a week, come back, and I'm like, ah, yeah.
I know now.
Yeah, what are you studying?
yeah. Yeah. It's yeah.
What are you studying?
I'm studying a double degree right now. I don't know why. But I'm doing commerce and law.
Nice.
I'm very interested in law, but I don't want to become a lawyer. I just like learning about it, and I figured out why it's such a high fail rate, because there's so many cases just for the one
Yeah.
unit, and people do 3 to 4. Like you get 40 cases sometimes, and I'm like, how do you read through all of this stuff? So for me, like, would love to do it, but at the same time, I've learned a lot of things that I want to learn from doing the degree, which is interpreting and researching law. So I'll probably drop the degree
Yeah, yeah.
and
Better be a
focus on just commerce. And I'm not too far off.
Yeah.
I could finish it this year, but I'm not that motivated to, because I've got my snowboarding and training and everything to do. So I want to keep everything balanced. So probably at the end of next year, which is fine. But who knows? Maybe I'll do the law degree. I don't know. Depends.
I'm exactly the same with law. So when I was doing my MBA, one of the 12 units was law, and
Yeah.
it was legal principles, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Like just the way that it's structured, how you learn and how you break things down and how you argue.
Yep.
And I loved it because in my heart of hearts, so I'll just go for people's necks, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you did this. This is the law. This is how we're interpreting it. This
You're
is
in
what's
trouble.
happening. And, I loved it. It was so, so good. But do I want to be a lawyer, live that life? Absolutely not.
Nah, not at all. Have you ever dabbled in criminal law?
No, we ended up doing civil, and it was more like the management and business side.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, criminals, it's like it's reading a crime book, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Fascinating.
But then, like, also the downside of being a lawyer, you get vicarious trauma. So you have to read through all these cases in incredible detail.
Yeah.
And because you need to know all those details and recount it, it's like it's your own memory.
Yeah.
And then, like, you have to deal with that over and over. It's the same thing with, like, doctors and ambos, and plus all the hours you work. There's so much downside to being a lawyer. Like, quite a few of my good mates are lawyers. It's like, oof.
Yeah.
They deal with it through drinking.
Couldn't think of anything worse to be a lawyer.
Yeah, you'd have to actually read, Ben.
Man, just to read, just to do the course. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't read.
It's a lot of reading.
Oh,
It's a lot
my
of
God.
reading. Yeah.
And what about your crypto, Belle? Like, tell us how you got into crypto. Reasons why you might, you're investing. Is it for more like long-term wealth creation? Is it just an interesting thing you like, like reading about, learning about? Yeah, I'd love to hear that side.
Yeah, so I kind of heard about crypto in 2017, 2018. And just in passing conversation with different people, like that was just a very standard thing for me to do, is talk to people about different ideas and topics and stuff. So don't really think much of it. And then in 2019, end of 2019, 2020, one of my coaches started talking about it, and I knew he was into crypto quite a bit, and I just got interested because, COVID had come out and we were overseas. We had to get full-on government permission to leave the country to train for Beijing. And we were very much isolated in different valleys and whatnot, and we couldn't really do anything, and no one was there. It was very eerie. So I thought, oh, well, probably should get a hobby. So Luke started picking his brain about it. And he got me into, he got me onto FTX. And I started, I thought, okay, I could probably invest this much into Bitcoin and Ethereum,
Yeah.
and then started learning more and more about it, and then started opening up my world to all these different tokens and coins, and all this shit just kept coming at me with like all these like news and information and everything. And my coach Jan, he was like, "Oh, check out this coin and this coin and this coin," and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
It's called the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what has
We've all been
happened?
there.
Yeah. What's going on? So yeah, it's like I've been burnt, and I've done okay as well at the same time. But what crypto has really taught me is that it teaches you so fast on
Yeah.
strategy, how to react to markets, which is to not react at all, just to like take the emotion out of it, like like a sport, and just really plan out how you do things. So it's taught me very quickly, and yeah, I've just been able to ride it on the way up, and I've also ridden a bit of it on the way down as well. And now I've just kind of given it a break, and now I've gotten back into it. And since like signing on to the collective shift stuff and looking at all the videos, like I love Checkmate. He's a fucking legend.
He's good, isn't he?
So good.
Yeah.
I actually saw
Such
his
a lad.
yeah. I saw his stuff, and then I went on to Glassnodes and did the academy as well. So I have a huge interest in that, like that data, on-chain analysis and everything, and I love looking at all those little. I just nerd out, and I'm like, okay, this is going to form part of me buying in. And I'm not like a day trader or anything, and I did get back into day trading 2018, 2019 when I was rehabbing and everything, and my mum's quite into it. She's been doing it for over 30 years now. And I've just been learning from her, but she buys in and then sells maybe a couple of days later or something. And she gets very excited when there's like, a couple of percentages there. And then I'm like, Mum, check out crypto.
Yeah,
like,
she's doing currencies.
Don't you think crypto just ruins you? Where if it's like, if it's not a 10x, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
Couple
exactly
percent, piss
right.
off.
2%.
Yeah, 2% is just bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
it's such bullshit. You're like, why? I'm like, I want to see like 10, 20x gains here in a day or an hour.
Or I'm out.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
out.
that's it.
Yeah.
Where's that candle?
Yeah, exactly right. Actually, yesterday, mum actually just bought her first ledger, her cold state storage wallet, and she just checked her portfolio. She hasn't checked it on. She goes, "I'm down 55%." I'm like, "Oh, that's standard. Like, don't worry about it.
Another day in crypto.
No, don't. Just write it out."
Yeah, that's it.
That's great advice.
Time to accumulate. That's
Yeah,
it. Let's
yeah.
go.
I'm like, look at the data. Look, Checkmate says
Time to buy, mum.
time to buy.
I love-
Yeah.
He's such a weapon. I love him because he is so opinionated, doesn't take any shit, but he backs it all up with hard data. He's so good.
Yeah, and that's it. That's how the data. You can't get much more accurate than that.
Yeah, 100%. So what are you currently holding? And don't need to give like cash numbers, but like percentages. Is it mainly BTC and ETH? You mentioned before the pod a couple of smaller coins you're looking into.
Yeah. So BTC, ETH, I'm just chucking profits into that.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be my long term sort of hold. And then like Solana as well.
Yep.
I did unfortunately get into Luna and didn't sell before it tanked, but that's okay. Sometimes you get greedy. But Arweave as well, storage, permanent storage, and Render is what I mentioned before. I'm quite curious to see how Arweave and Render go.
Yep.
Just because of what's going on with Web3, all the crypto gaming, metaverse, and all those things that are kind of integrating with each other. So, yeah, we'll see. And for those people who don't know what it is, it's just basically like computing structural crypto that layers, like it's just the foundation of computers. So, and there's a few other like tokens. Obviously, like I've got the meme coin, Shibu, and Doge.
Yep.
Well, why not?
Why not?
And then just like reading up on other things, see what's out there, but mainly Bitcoin and ETH. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's such a good space. How you're right. It teaches you so fast. The lessons are brutal. They come in like really hard, but you learn, you bounce back, and then the gains are fast as well. And once you kind of level out, you can really start to build your portfolio. And I'm just wondering, was like crypto your first investing experience, or did you have invested in other areas before this?
Yeah, so I invested in my first apartment in my 20s, and been chipping away at that, and then whatever sort of spare cash I had was to go into better trading opportunities with my snowboarding, and also investments into shares in stock market, really. So I've kind of talked to my mum and said this is what she's focusing on. That gave me a kind of good start on blue chip shares and whatnot, and other smaller cap shares, and I just kind of bought and sell whatever. But when I look back at that, like I didn't really utilize the graphs that you could access, say on like Binance, for example. You can see like your red and green candles, volume, the MACD and everything. I just kind of thought, oh, that looks like a good price. I'll just buy in. And I reckon I
Yeah.
got pretty lucky for probably 2 years just trading that way. And other times, there was 2 times where I bought in the pump and it's tanked, and I've had to just had to buy my losses and sell them. But what crypto taught me was to actually look at where, price action is. And that's helped me a lot with the share market completely, like a lot. And I've done courses on top of that just to kind of grow my knowledge on top of that. And I'd love to dabble into like day trading after snowboarding, but it just requires, I just want to get my technique right and then just experiment and then get into it. So right now it's just like literally buying, maybe selling, and then just buying into Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's
cool.
That's a very important point there, where using technical analysis, so using charts and things like you said, like, MACD, RSI, even Fibonacci sequences, very basic things that you can learn in one day. You don't have to be a trader. But when you're looking at a chart, that's literally price action and human psychology. You can see where things are at and just look for your entry to buy and get a better entry than you otherwise would. It is so important to learn.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like there's so many like technical tools that you can use, but I look at like a lot of the top traders, they have like 3 or 4. That's it.
Simple.
So simple.
strategy, yeah.
So simple. And they just build their like awareness of the different patterns and everything through that, and then just make decisions from there.
So many people overcomplicate it.
Oh,
We've spoken about
yeah.
this before. So we recently started doing these one-on-one calls with people, and we help them with their portfolio. And I speak to so many people that have these so complex strategies, right? They basically got $500 and they're in DeFi and they're staking this and don't hold any Bitcoin and in 43 altcoins, and they're wondering why their portfolio's down 80%. You know, for me, I've been dollar cost averaging for 6 years. Every week I bought Bitcoin. For 2 years, I took my whole salary in Bitcoin. And just after 6 years, like, it's worth a substantial amount. And it's just simple, continue to buy. You don't worry about the highs and the lows. Crypto runs in cycles. You have to show this episode to your mum so she keeps buying. But, it's just a way of life in crypto. Like, you get the peaks and troughs, but, Bitcoin's compounding at 100% growth year on year. Like, if you look, as you zoom out, it's beating every single hedge fund on the planet. Like, it is the best performing asset, and I couldn't think of anything else I want to have money in. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Shout out Bitcoin. I'll drop the mic now.
Bitcoin just dropped the mic. And that's it.
Yeah,
And people get seduced by complexity. Like, I need this new trading tool that some guy just made yesterday that shows me absolutely everything. But once you go through and learn those lessons, you can peel it back, and you just have those 4 or 5 things that you need to know in order to make a better decision.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just trial and error. Like, same with sport. Like, you just try different things and everything. But at the end of the day, like, with physical training, it's just moving around different weights at different speeds, and it's pretty similar to trading. Like, it's just same foundation, same different tools. So
and it can seem very complex and intimidating, but if you spend the time in there, you can peel back the layers and it becomes very straightforward. Like, you find your flow, you learn what you like and what you don't like. And like, for me, like, I hate day trading. I hate sitting in front of a computer, watching charts, like wasting my whole life and then turning my emotions off. I'm like, I'm not that person. I'm like more of a buy and hold, or potentially a swing trade if I see something. But you learn all those things, and then you just apply that. And I wouldn't want to be in any other space. It's so much fun.
Is there anything else in Collective Shift? I'm fascinated to know. You love Checkmate. Is there any other content that you like or you've seen that's like helped you with your whether investing strategies or education or anything like that?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I did the beginners course.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really beneficial for me, just kind of figuring out, because at that point I did lose some money. And I was like, okay, I should probably get my shit together. So that was one of them that my coach was he's a member as well.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is. He's a member. He's
with the whole Belle Brockhoff team.
Yeah. No, actually, we have another athlete who's on there too, and I think he's one of the OG members. Actually, they're both OG members.
Oh, you got another athlete on?
No, I didn't. But they're both OG members.
Oh, back in the day.
Yeah, back to like Nuggets.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Shit,
So,
there you go.
So they're both on there, and they said, my coach was like, you should, have a look. So he sent me one video, and I was like, oh crap, okay, this is pretty good. And I did the beginners course, and then I did a couple of other courses from there, and then and then also, like, when there's so much information out there, and there's so much shit that you can get bombarded with, different influences, different people in different spaces, like this is this. But on the page of Collective Shift, there's just, you have glossary, and it's just so simple. It's like a crypto for dummies, it just has the basics, and that's all you really need. So it doesn't overcomplicate anything. It's just simple.
That's awesome.
Less is more, I guess.
Yeah. it's exactly what we're going to try. Like what we've been trying to build. Like
Yeah.
there's so much stuff out there. You've got YouTubers and influencers that 90% I think promote all sorts of nonsense, get paid to do stuff
Yeah.
on the table. It's a wild west. There is some good stuff, but mainly bad. Then you've got like Delphi Digital,
Yeah.
you know, Mazzari, cracking content, but you know, reading 30 pages of content, you know, it's just no one's got time for that, right? And
Yeah.
especially when you're busy, you're an athlete, you're running a business,
Yeah.
you know, you've got work. Like trying to stay across crypto is like impossible. So we're just trying to
Yeah.
like cut out all the BS and give you exactly what you need to know. So it's good. It's good feedback. And shout out Checkmate.
Yeah, shout out Checkmate. He's a legend. Big fan. Big
and
fan,
the whole content team, they're absolute legends. The way that like their job is literally to go in, like read all the white papers, do all the analysis, get across everything, jump into the discords, play with all the technology, and then synthesize that into like a 5-minute thing that you need to know. Like shout out to those guys.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I've been. Any questions? But do you have anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I actually asked all my questions, and I just honestly wanted to thank you, Belle. It's like awesome to meet you and hear your story, and that you're into crypto, which is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, nah, definitely. It's been great. Like, I just got into it because I'm thinking about life after sport. So, yeah, I just want to be stuck behind a desk 9 to 5 every day.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, I just want to be able to travel and do my thing and just keep building wealth. Yeah.
And it's
That's the
great.
life.
Like you're doing everything. Like you're still snowboarding, training, you're studying at uni, and you're investing as well. Just really setting your life up for success. I just love to see it.
Yeah. Nah, cheers.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in. That's been awesome. I love the whole story.
No.
And let's go. Where's the 2026 Olympics?
Milan,
Milan.
Italy.
Let's go, Italy.
Yeah.
So work trip then?
Yeah, let's go,
2026?
Bergs.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
yeah.
book it in.
Yeah. It's going to be great. Like, the last few games have been Russia, Korea, and China. So I'm excited to be
Milan sounds good.
Milan sounds amazing. So yeah, should be good.
Amazing. Well,
Should
all
be
the
very
best. Thank you everyone for listening. It was an epic conversation. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd love for you to share it with maybe a friend, maybe a mum that's down 55% in crypto. You know, maybe give them some tips. And yeah, thank you so much, Belle, for coming on. We'd love to get some more guests on like this. This was I love doing this sort of stuff. It's amazing getting awesome people on. So
Absolutely.
thanks
And
very
Belle,
much.
where can people reach
yeah.
you? You've
Yeah.
got your website and your Twitter. You want to give those a plug?
Yeah, just Belle Brockhoff for Twitter and Instagram. I'm mostly active on Instagram. Twitter, I just like stalking. Just a stalker. It's like I get all my
creeping.
news off there because it's fast shit. You know, I read
Yeah.
all your stuff as
Yeah,
well. Like
yeah.
it's just so handy. It's like there when you have nothing else to do. Like, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we're all cheering you on, Belle. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you next time. Bergs, thanks for tuning in, man, and go fix that nose tomorrow, man.
Oh, mate, get the splints out. Can't wait. Thanks so much, Belle. I've really, really enjoyed this. Thank
No
you.
worries. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.